Welcome to my channel. This is an indication of some of the things that I cover on a regular basis in my videos. If you haven't already subscribed, please feel free to do so, and don't forget to click the little bell so that you'll get notified of future videos. Please feel free to share my videos on your social media, and I hope you enjoy the video which follows. Hello everybody, I'm back using my Christmas gift again, my vegetarian Italian cookbook. This time I'm going to attempt making homemade pasta. It has been literally years, many years, since I made homemade pasta. Matter of fact, it took me quite some time last evening to find my pasta machine. Couldn't remember where I might have stored it, found it on a shelf in the basement, so it's been washed and cleaned and we're ready to go. And this is what I would call a relatively simple pasta. Probably shouldn't say that because it may turn out to be a disaster. But it only contains all-purpose flour, eggs, and salt. That's it. In the past, I've made it with a combination of all-purpose flour and semolina flour and all that sort of thing, depending on what kind of pasta you're making. But this one is just 3 ingredients. So let's get started, I guess. I'll get the ingredients out here. Okay, the ingredients, as I said, there are only 3. There's a teaspoon of salt, and I'm using sea salt. So we'll put that on there right now, I guess. 375 grams of all-purpose flour. That's 3 cups of all-purpose flour. And 4 large eggs. Here comes the tricky part. Start with a fork. Just sort of beat the eggs up a bit in here. And try to combine some flour with the eggs, hopefully without putting it all over the counter here. Quickly, I've got out a pastry cutter, hoping that might make some difference. If you've ever watched a true Italian chef do this, they're much slicker at it than I am. Might be getting closer to something that I could work with my hands here. A true Italian chef would have been able to control the sides of the mound of flour, but I'm not a true chef of any kind, I guess. Love Italian food. See if we can't start working that by hand. May or may not in the end need all of the flour. It depends, of course, on the size of your large eggs. They're sort of a standard thing. These are boughten eggs. My big girls are still on winter vacation here. Still getting lots of eggs from the bantams, but well, my larger birds are all older, and I don't give them any extra light, which would help them to produce more eggs in the winter. I just let them have a bit of a vacation. Yeah, I guess we're getting down to something here, finally. continue kneading this until it's quite firm. It can still be a little tacky, but I don't want it to be too wet. Try to incorporate some of these bits that have gone off to the side here. Well, as you can see, I had a bit of flour that I didn't use, and that is, well, tacky to the touch just a bit. But now it gets wrapped in plastic wrap and rests for 30 minutes before we get out the pasta machine and try rolling it into some sort of pasta. It's had a half hour to relax. Now I'm going to endeavor to roll it out. I think I'll try a quarter of it. Or roughly a quarter of it, I guess. So, see how that works. It is quite pliable now. You start with the largest opening on the roller. Everything's going to slide around here. It's secured, but the board isn't. Hopefully I haven't got an arm in the way so you can't see anything. Okay. Now you fold this sort of like a letter halfway in, and you put it through the same size at least 3 times before you change it. So that is 2. I'm getting sort of a strange shape here. There are, I think, 10 settings. You don't have to use all 10. Do this one more time. Each setting takes it down a bit smaller, a bit thinner. So you just keep going until you get the thickness that you want, I guess, is the idea. I will now go to number 2 here. Starting to look better. I was having quite a bit of problem with like lacy holes coming in it, but that seems to have stopped. Now we move on to number 4 here. tearing holes in it. I think one more pass at that level. Still not quite thin enough, so I think I'll go at least one more after this. I think that will do at level 4 rather, we'll go to 5 now. Every once in a while I seem to have some trouble with it sort of turning lacy. Not quite sure what I'm doing wrong. As I said, it has been years since I used this thing. Hopefully we'll get some pasta out of it. Need 4 hands for one thing. It does seem to be coming together a bit better now. I think I understand why I was having the problem with it sort of going lacy with holes in it. I was folding it over, then I was just putting it in the machine, and you really should compact it, make sure that they're well stuck together. So I think that might have been my issue. This is my last pass on this one. Still at the 5th level. Well, that's piece number 2, but I wanted to show you what I do to keep it from sticking together while it's waiting to be cut into smaller pieces. I just dust it with a bit of flour, not much. Dust the top as well. And the last piece that I did has the top dusted, so if I put this on top of there, hopefully when I go to get them they're not all welded together. Well, I hope you'll be able to see something. I know my hand's going to be in the way, but there doesn't seem to be any other way of doing it. I'm just sort of squaring up the ends from my last piece of pasta that I just finished rolling out, and that took quite a while. Little ends will be saved and used, but makes it easier to feed in, I think, if you have it square. At least I hope that's going to be what will happen. The first one I'm going to do is a wide pasta. I'm not quite sure what you might call it if you're buying it in a shop. This particular machine will do 2 widths, this wider one and then one that is spaghetti. So I will start with the wider one. There we are. Now, I guess I got all that out of there. I'll put just a bit of flour on it because you don't want the pasta to start sticking together at this point. So a little bit of flour and toss it. This freezes very well. You can also dry it. Seeing various methods, people use like a wooden dowel or whatever and hang it over that and dry it, or I guess even chair backs. But that gives you dry pasta. You can buy dry pasta in any store in town. So I prefer to freeze it and you have fresh pasta to use. I think the next one that I will do will be spaghetti. I'll probably do a couple of spaghettis. Same idea, I'm going to square up this end. One piece that won't be used, I just dropped it on the floor. Oh yeah, I have to move the crank handle gets moved into the other position here. Well, I say it does if I can get it in there. There we go. Very cramped quarters here for making my pasta. There is a little pile of spaghetti. Same idea, I put a little flour on it so that it won't all stick together. And believe it or not, this thing is called a pasta bike. B-I-K-E as in bicycle. If I can get the pasta in the right position here. Can't get it all the way over to the end. Oh well. We'll just cut it off like I've cut everything else off, I guess. And it makes a very wide noodle with a fancy edge. Here's the end. I guess I didn't start there very well either. I don't know what you would call these if you bought them in a shop. Probably somewhere here in North America, New York City, Toronto. There are places in Little Italy that make homemade fresh pasta. And I would imagine it's priced like it is in Italy. It's very expensive, and there's a good reason for that. It's a lot like work. Well, as the title said, I'm going to try pasta aglio olio, and I don't speak Italian. Wish I did. I've spent quite a bit of time in Italy, and the farms that I worked on, the people that owned the farms spoke fluent English, but I always met unilingual Italian speakers that I wished I could converse with, such interesting people, but I don't. But aglio olio is garlic and oil. Also has some peperoncino, the hot chicken flakes in it. It's a very simple pasta sauce. And it doesn't say olive oil, it just says oil, because in Italy, as far as they're concerned, there is only one oil, extra virgin olive oil. Well, you might be able to hear the water boiling off to one side there. I haven't put the pasta in it yet. Dried pasta, usually the packaging will tell you 11 minutes, 12 minutes, whatever. But with fresh pasta, 4 to 5 minutes is all you need, so you don't want to overcook it. I've got the flame going under that, so that is quite hot already. Fair amount of garlic. You have to like garlic to like this one, I guess. But it's my own garlic. I really like the variety that I grew this year. Of course, cannot remember what it was called. I could go back and look at one of my older videos from a year ago when I planted it, a year ago this past fall. But I'm going to be growing the same kind next year because I saved all of my bigger heads, and that's the same variety that I'm growing, so it doesn't really matter what it's called, I guess. It has a red skin. got it from West Coast Seeds of British Columbia. I'm not 100% sure. Red chili flakes, peperoncino. Both farms that I worked on in Italy, there was peperoncino on the table. Like we might put salt and pepper, they had ground peperoncino, the hot chili flakes. And they add it to everything. I didn't see them use it with breakfast, but breakfast is usually toast and coffee. So it looks like I put a fair amount in there. I find cooking it in the hot oil loses some of the heat. Almost time to put the pasta on. The water has come to a nice boil. Add some salt. My large noodles, whatever you want to call them, I guess. And when that comes back to a boil, 4 or 5 minutes is all that's required to cook it. Should come back to a boil fairly quickly. I will be finishing the pasta in the sauce, so really it'll only cook for a couple of minutes. Right now I'm going to add a little excitement. Now the pasta has been cooking for a couple of minutes. I will bring it over and add it to the sauce. It should absorb quite a bit more of that liquid that's in there, and I will determine whether I think I should add a bit more or not. Alright, the pasta is done. I did add a little bit more water, the pasta water. I think that will do. A little drizzle of olive oil. And some Parmesan. And I'll meet you in the dining room. Well, let's give this a try. Sorry about the video being quite a bit on the long side. I've tried editing it down to make it a bit shorter, so if you see some places where there seems to be an abrupt cut-off and then we move on to the next bit of doing it, that's because I cut some of it out. It was getting really lengthy. Oh my. That is really good. There is a bit of heat, but as I said, I find that cooking them, particularly in the hot oil, eliminates quite a bit of the heat. So I do tend to use a little more than I would normally use. I still don't know quite what to call this noodle, other than very good. A fair amount of work. It can all be done by hand, but it's a lot more work. If you can roll it out with a rolling pin and cut it. But I don't know as I would try it without a pasta machine. Now that I've got my pasta machine out, I may use it more frequently, I guess. Well, if you like the video, or if you like the idea, I hope you'll give it a try, particularly if you have a pasta machine. You probably already make pasta better than I do. But thank you very much for watching.